and our counties. Madam Speaker, it is critical that this technopolis, as it is being created, we find within the law a system of reporting back on the activities they are carrying. Madam Speaker, sometimes we have formed here authorities, we have created activities, but there's no benchmarking for those authorities. There's no reporting back mechanism. And so you see, like today, we were talking about the victims charter during the earlier on in the Senate session. That a board has been set up, and it's not an independent board, and that board fails to report to anybody, and then we see nothing is going on, and citizens start petitioning the Senate here that something needs to be done. So even this one, we should have a reporting mechanism so that whatever it is that they have achieved, we should be able as a Senate to receive reports, because this is a government effort, and there must be a reporting back mechanism. There must be a way in which we can say that all the money, all the incentives that have been put there, there has been a return back, and one of the return back was this and the other. Madam Speaker, still sticking on the activities, we have to create clauses that speak to the existence of our counties. And Madam Speaker, within this particular Kenya Konza technopolis bill, we would want a clause created that would be speaking specifically to the Konza technopolis, creating opportunities in ICT for development in counties, in county governments, in counties which are outside the 3 counties where this technopolis is situated. So that part of the reporting mechanism must be said that in Turkana County, this and this has been done as maybe part of the CRS for the Konza technopolis bill. We must make this requirement so that they have the thinking embedded in law and within them, that they have gone outside the 3 counties where they are located to promote technology, to promote ICT, and to be able to do the functions, amongst others, promotion of ICT across the country. I have looked at clause 6, and we are saying that there is all these permanent secretaries that have been put up as members of this management of the authority and the board. When you look at this list, Madam Speaker, again, it is speaking to a national body and very little about counties. In fact, we have only 2 persons who are nominated from the opposite gender by the Council of County Governors. Madam Speaker, I think we need to possibly add more members who should be recruited in a competitive manner. And Madam Speaker, I want to repeat again that when they are choosing the board of management, we should have a fair spread, so that we don't have the two persons of the opposite gender, for example, nominated by the Council of Governors coming from the same county. We don't have the CEO, who is an ex-officio member of the board, coming again from the same counties. We don't have also the one person appointed by the cabinet secretary coming from the same county. It has happened, Madam Speaker, in other authorities where you will find that there is no spread. So, Madam Speaker, I propose Senator Gloria to consider looking at putting a clause that will ensure that there is fair spread across the county in terms of selection of who should be sitting there. Madam Speaker, there is the clause 8, which speaks to the qualifications for the chairperson of the board. And it seems like there is a fixed requirement for 15 years experience in information technology, development of special economic zones, science, parks, infrastructure, and so on. And there is, to me, a very gaping hole when you say that someone must have at least 15 years experience in finance, economics, or tax. This seems to be the same genre. And yet, someone who has practiced information and communication technology law for the last 10 years, 20 years, you have left them out. So I think we should increase the requirements to make it inclusive of law, so that instead of just having finance, economics, or tax, we should say finance, economics, or law. Madam Speaker, that goes for all the board members as well. But critically, when it comes to the recruitment of staff, which is in the proposed clause 18, I was going to propose to Senator Gloria, the sponsor of this bill, that this being a Senate bill, and the Senate being the place where we promote counties, let us find wording that will make sure that there is a spread in terms of staff across the nation. If we leave it the way it is, staff are most likely going to be recruited from Nairobi County and the 3 counties, Makueni and so on, Machakos and so on, that are within the Konza technopolis area, so that people from Tana River County can have an opportunity to work there. People from Turkana, Mandera, Mombasa, people from Vihiga and so on can also have an opportunity to work in this technopolis. We forget that when we don't encourage deliberate spread, what tends to happen is Nairobi tends to dominate almost everything. And if it is located within Machakos area, what would happen also is after Machakos, after Nairobi, most of the staff will come from Machakos. So let us find wording like it is in cabinet, that there should be a reasonable geographical spread, even gender and other considerations, so that this bill, which is coming from the Senate, should have that trademark of Senate, that we are defenders of our county governments. Madam Speaker, I'm talking now on the part 3 of this bill, which talks about the regulation and the licensing. It says that if someone has applied within 7 days, they should be given the results. I think 7 days on a practical basis is not enough. We should increase that to make it 21 days, so that if there's any reason the board cannot meet, for example, now, Madam Speaker, we have had maandamanos that have disrupted the way things would work. Now, we can have any other issues, even natural calamities. Madam Speaker, if you say within 7 days, and then these 7 days are not met, you are exposing the board to legal liabilities for absolutely no reason. So I would encourage that we increase these numbers to the normal 21 days so that we don't expose the board to unnecessary difficulties. I'm also going to mention here that there are provisions on denial of license to operate within this zone. And more important, there are provisions, and I'm looking at proposed section 31, that the board can actually, 30 and 31, that the board can revoke a license issued to Konza Technopolis Enterprise if several other issues are raised. I want to say that if investors are putting in millions of shillings, in fact, maybe some will put in billions of shillings, we have to be very careful that we do not create situations where people are going to be afraid to come. Let us make it difficult for a board or a minister or anyone to come and say, I'm revoking your license after I've put up a very serious investment in the Konza Technopolis area, and we've invested millions of shillings. I've done stuff, I've done this, I've employed, and then you come and say, I'm giving you a notice of non-compliance. I think this section should be relooked. And how I propose you look at it is, there are international corporations that you are targeting and attracting to that area. Have them come for the public participation in this bill. I know, for instance, that Microsoft is already in Kenya. And I know some young people who are running, very big salaries, maybe higher, much higher than even sitting members of parliament or even the president of the republic. And they're employed by international organizations like Microsoft. Microsoft is already here. Microsoft, of course, I believe they would want to go to Konza Technopolis when this becomes a reality. And I believe that other tech companies will come. And when they come, they would want good working conditions. I would really encourage my colleague to find a way of putting these already operational mega companies that might be attracted there to come for public participation. Let them look at some of these provisions. Are these provisions business friendly? There's no even a provision for, negotiation in case there are some infractions on the licensing requirements. There's no really, a way to
give you 1 more minute to finish that statement.
There's no a way of amicable settlement, Madam Speaker, to sort out problems which may arise within this technopolis. Let us not give too much power to the board. Let us give the investors who are going to create jobs for our young people the opportunity to be comfortable as they work in this area. With those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Chiralike can take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want from the onset to support this wonderful bill by Senator Gloria Orwoba. I know she has undergone a lot of challenges until finally this bill has come to the floor. This is one of the bills that has generated interest and a lot of express of individuals who don't want to be held accountable. I'm happy finally the Konza Technopolis Bill 2023, and I want to thank Senator Gloria Orwoba. I can see she's seizing the moment. She's doing a wonderful job, and I think for us who have been around for some time, we can only tell her the future is bright. Madam Speaker, I almost say Madam Speaker, sir, I heard a colleague of mine saying that. I know, my apologies. Madam Speaker, the issue of Konza Technopolis, the future of many nations is the ICT. ICT is one of the versatile, technology is one of the versatile areas that it will keep changing, Madam Speaker, in many aspects. It will keep changing. It is one of the lucrative businesses. It is, technology runs obsolete, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, but as we talk today, the Republic of Kenya is yet to benefit from aspects of technological development and business. Madam Speaker, I appreciate the fact that many universities are offering and they are doing, giving out technological courses, the future of smart cities. And I'm happy and I want to laud the President because smart cities have been given to each and every county, Madam Speaker. And one of them is Konza Technopolis, which we wanted to be the hub, to be the one that will breed and ensure that they babysit most of the smart cities and economic processing zone that we are going to have in this country, including aggregation centers. Madam Speaker, even buying spaces where I've seen counties, Madam Speaker, that have lost vital documents because of lack of places where they store these important technological, Madam Speaker. We have had cases where some of the organizations like Safaricom, Madam Speaker, are keeping their data away from the country, therefore denying us the important revenue. Like Meta, Madam Speaker, which runs Facebook among other social media pages. We hardly get anything from them. Yet many Kenyans, we are the leading country that uses internet, Madam Speaker. And therefore, we must hold these companies, including Meta, to account and to pay for us taxes, to fix our economy, Madam Speaker. We cannot allow them to run away, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you remember when Elon Musk, one of the, is it the richest? You know, there's a difference being richer and wealthier. You know, when you are wealthy, you are happy, your things are okay, your children are happy, your wife is happy, Madam Speaker. You know, I'm told in Nairobi, when, you know, your spouse is unfair or is unhappy, you hear some songs and utensils being thrown here and there, and then you know there is no peace that way in the house, Madam Speaker. But you should be wealthy when you have your God, your children are happy, your spouse is happy. That is now being wealthy. But I'm told the richest man on earth, Elon Musk, who happens to come from Africa, bought Twitter. And you remember, Madam Speaker, they were crazy, where we were being told, can you get the blue, the Twitter badge? And we were paying. Personally, I paid for it for the authentication, Madam Speaker, and I was charged in dollars. I wish the dollars I was paying for my Twitter verification blue badge. At least some taxes would have gone to be taxed for government, to build roads, to give ICT and digital economy opportunities to many young people, Madam Speaker. You have had the President, His Excellency, the beloved President, His Excellency, Dr. William Ruto, I said we want to create digital jobs for young people across 290 constituencies and create what we call ICT hubs. Madam Speaker, we know Konza has been run before. like an organization of witchcraft and sorcery. Madam Speaker, they have not been open. We are calling them out, Madam Speaker. They are getting billions and billions of shillings, but when the legislation comes in place, wants to regulate the activities, they go haywire, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think it is a high time that the country, and I saw in the Finance Act that was passed unanimously by this Parliament, Madam Speaker, one of the aspects is to tax some of the aspects of content creators, which is okay, because it will assist in regulating the industry and also providing services, Madam Speaker. In the Finance Act, I know that matter came up before the court, Madam Speaker, and I'm happy you are holding brief and you make strong submissions. It is that, Madam Speaker, some of these arms of government have what we call state capture. Madam Speaker, although we wanted orders to be vacated, I have seen there is a bench that has been constituted. Madam Speaker, that Finance Act is trying to be creative in getting taxes. We want a creative economy to thrive. Also, we want taxes to be creative. And therefore, we need to move to digital economy. And one of the aspects is ensuring that Konza technopolis does not exist in isolation. Why is it an offense, Madam Speaker, for Konza technopolis to be held account? Why are some individuals don't want? Konza technopolis does not exist outside Kenya. It's part of Kenya. It must be regulated. And I'm happy that Senator Gloria Orwoba has taken the bull by its horns, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is a woman of steel, Madam Speaker. I don't want to say she has what we normally say on the corridor. But, Madam Speaker, this is the first time we want to regulate properly the legal framework. And I heard my brother, like the function of authority, a development plan for technopolis, Madam Speaker, initiate the formulation policies and strategies, facilitate, monitor, and evaluate development, Madam Speaker. And therefore, I agree that the powers of authority also, we must ensure that the powers of authority do not come. Madam Speaker, there is a famous saying in the French Revolution, that absolute power corrupts absolutely, Madam Speaker. This is what is happening in Konza. We don't want people who do, Madam Speaker, I only have a problem. Why is it an offense to take account for you for using taxpayers' money? I thought everybody in this country should be having, Madam Speaker, when, for example, you are called to account for the money that public gives you. This is a public entity. Madam Speaker, we know of many companies, Huawei, many companies like Samsung and many others have pitched tent in Konza. Kenyans must get value. And the only way to get value, Madam Speaker, you are a learned senior in this profession, you cannot tax something that there is no legal framework. We want Konza technopolis to have a legal framework going into the future, Madam Speaker. And therefore, I'm happy. But I want to urge Senator Gloria, when it comes to the third, let us include counties. We want counties to be part of this, Madam Speaker. We want counties to benefit. I would have expected in the board, Madam Speaker, that at least we ensure a representative from Council of Governors, and of course the upper house, the Senate, should be part of the board of the authority. Because I have seen anywhere the ICT minister in terms of Wi-Fi and many others, Madam Speaker, is to ensure that, you know, I had a ruling in the upshot when this matter came up, when the Mutunga siege, I don't remember the proper citation, he was asking, when you want to do a budget implementation, do you implement within a county or outside the boundaries of the county? Because counties are within Kenya. We have 47 county governments, one indivisible people, one nation, Madam Speaker. And therefore, I expect the representative of the COG to be here on this board. I expect the Senate to be represented, or the Parliament, so that we can be effective in terms of the board authority that we has, Madam Speaker. Because, Madam Speaker, Senator is one of us in the Kenya Kwanza coalition, and the ruling party, of course, Madam Speaker, is one of us. And she is aware of the position of the government and Kenya Kwanza and President William Ruto, that we are going to ensure we have digital jobs. We are going to have ICT hubs in 290 constituencies across the country, and 47 county governments, of course. So therefore, counties becomes an important. And you know, Senate is we, under Article 96, we represent the interest of the counties. And therefore, this being our baby, this is we can decide how this baby will grow, Madam Speaker. We can either take to the international schools or the normal schools, or even do not go to school. So we need to ensure, and I know Senator Gloria is open, she's open for many ideas to enrich the bill. So I expect now that we will look at that so that we also defend. And Madam Speaker, I'm also aware that some individuals have run to National Assembly to try and duplicate the bill. Madam Speaker, I've had people arguing about Article 113, money bill, excuses, writing concurrence letter, Madam Speaker. I can tell you as a parliament under Article 93 of the Constitution, each and every one of us has an opportunity, Madam Speaker, to generate a bill. Unless, Madam Speaker, and I want to propose, because you sit in Senate Business Committee, if we want to work together with National Assembly, which is the lower house, we can agree on co-sponsoring, where you have a senator sponsoring a bill, and then we have a colleague in the National Assembly. That is how we'll enrich the role of Parliament. I am aware, and let us ask National Assembly, they should not be excited in fighting us. They have tried to fight us before, but we have won. Madam Speaker, in 2013, this House, on the division of revenue, we won. When I was the chair, when you was truly, was one of the powerful chairs in the last session, the chairperson of Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights. I'm the chairperson emeritus, Madam Speaker. We moved and we did pleadings with your department. We have defeated them in courts of law. As we are not interested with the fights in the courts of law, we want to work for Kenyans. The only way we can work for Kenyans is that you don't need to duplicate a bill. You appear as a brilliant fool, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the one I wanted to on the powers of the board, just in quick succession. Of course, I agree with a number of, but I want to ask Senator Gloria, because he's one of us, he's a youthful person, to at least not put too much 10 years and a lot, just put around 5 years. I remember when we were pushing, Madam Speaker, the County Attorney Act, and we had push and pull. People wanted 10 years experience as a lawyer to be a county attorney, but we told them, some counties in this republic, you don't even get a lawyer. So what we did, we pulled down up to 5 years experience. So I want to ask, even in board experience, Senator Gloria, at least relook at the age and the experience so that we can have more youthful people. And you know, Kenya is one of the IT hubs, Madam Speaker, that we can do. At least, and of course, want to ensure that the common seal of the authority should be there. Of course, the form of licenses, class license, revoking them. Madam Speaker, what I would request on clause number 30, revocation of a license, is I want to call upon that, for example, clause number 31, the board shall, before revoking a license, issue to Konza Technopolis Enterprise notice in a prescribed form. But of course, I know that you can review the High Court, which is important. I think that is important, so that we don't have powers by the board that do not have powers that can be relooked at, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the issue of licensing, register of license, among others, Madam Speaker, I think these are things we agree on. Madam Speaker, the only aspect I want to conclude, because I have only 2 points to conclude, is clause number 46 on the accounts and the audit. I request that once in a while, when these reports are taken to Auditor General, the authority should also appear before Parliament. As Parliament, and I want to ask Senator Gloria to be careful not to use National Assembly to say Parliament, so that this authority can appear before the Senate and before the National Assembly. And therefore, since this is our making, Madam Speaker, and therefore, of course, the board will go in that direction. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, this is what we want to do as a nation. As we said earlier on, Kenyans have elected all of us, Madam Speaker, to come and sit in this house. I don't know any other reason an elected member of Parliament, be it a senator and member of National Assembly, to go on the streets or to go in the villages, yet people elected them to sit here. Today, Madam Speaker, We are working. The nation is working. It's a normal working day. Madam Speaker, if you have divergent of the opinion, come to the floor of the House and give us a policy or legislation intervention the way Senator Gloria Orwoba has done. That is how we move this country, Madam Speaker. We cannot move this country by going to the streets and making noise. We are not powerless. We exercise authority as provided by the Constitution on behalf of Kenyans. So if there is any alternative, Madam Speaker, is the alternative of giving Kenyans leadership and doing our work, Madam Speaker. And therefore, I want to call upon our colleagues. Let us be in Parliament. I've seen some of them yesterday. They were saying, Parliament, I want to tell the country, because I saw many people in social media saying there is maandamano in Senate. There is no maandamano in Senate. Which maandamano? And we are discharging our constitutional mandate, Madam Speaker. Those are people who are excited on social media. And it is not new that the minority side, as Mio and Kenya, they have always worked out. Even when you were being elected as the Speaker of this House, they worked and the House has moved on, Madam Speaker. I want to call upon the country. I have seen the clergy are saying the President and the former Premier should sit to discuss what? Elections was done and dusted. There is a constitutionally, democratically elected government in place. Then, Madam Speaker, what is the value of elections in future? Why should we go to an election? We must tell this country and be honest. Let us have honest conversation. And I want to ask the clergy and people who are doing clarion call for engagement. What should we engage about, Madam Speaker? Then why should we not have have election, Madam Speaker? Why don't we sit as political class somewhere in Chinyamiti, somewhere in some village, be it from in Nyamira, where Senator Gloria Orwoba comes from, in Kisii County, sorry, sit somewhere Chinyamiti, Madam Speaker, and say, let us share the seats. Why should we disturb Kenyans after every 4 years? We sell our agenda, we sell our manifesto, we campaign, we use resources. Then after that year, Madam Speaker, we come and tell the nation we don't agree. Then there is no value of elections, Madam Speaker. Me, there is people I defeated in general election. Can I negotiate with them for power sharing deal? No. Because Kenyans, when they go to elect somebody, they don't elect because of just electing, Madam Speaker. So I want to ask, because sometimes, Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I see a lot of ignorance. Ignorance, Madam Speaker, by individuals who just want to say, negotiate. What should we negotiate about? And therefore, Madam Speaker, with those very, very many remarks, this is a wonderful bill. I want to ask Senator Gloria and the Senate to hold this bill dearly. This is our baby. We should not allow anybody to snatch. And we will not sit somewhere where somebody will tell us, can you divide the baby into two? We will not allow that to happen. We will not allow, even the biblical principle did not allow that. So are we allowing our baby to be divided into two, Madam Speaker? Let the members of National Assembly generate their own bills. And if they lack the intelligence and capacity and ability, I always give pro bono legal services on drafting of the bills. They can look for me. With those many remarks, congratulate Senator, wish her well. We hope to see the President assenting this to law. And of course, Konza technopolis to be held accountable because they use taxpayers. With those many remarks, I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Chiralige. Senator Madago Jackson.
Madam Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. First, let me say I rise to support the Konza Technopolis Act by Senator Gloria. And Madam Speaker, this act or piece of legislation has come at the right time in this country when the Kenya Konza administration wants to roll out a very robust use of technology in terms of service delivery for government services, and also roll out digital infrastructure to enable the private sector and the business community to be able to transact business on the technology platform, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this bill is going to bring sanity in the industry. And Madam Speaker, the bill is going to generate revenue for the country. And as a nation who aspires to depend on themselves in terms of managing their own internal affairs, Madam Speaker, this bill is going to be among the bills that is going to enable government begin generating revenue in areas that have not been able to do so in the past. Madam Speaker, as you are aware, Kenya government and Kenya people lose a lot of taxes through technology and business opportunities that we've not been able to generate revenue because of lack of legal framework. Madam Speaker, today in this nation, data is being traded across the globe, while Kenya earns nothing from that trade. Madam Speaker, you realize that mobile operators in this country, some of them have their termination centers for international calls outside this country. And we are aware that those who are trying to ask the National Assembly to develop a parallel bill and act, Madam Speaker, are actually being sponsored by those who are not interested in this nation putting sanity in the data industry of this nation. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we support this bill because it's not only going to create sanity and make sure that the process of data transfer, the release of private data, will be properly addressed and governed in law. And this nation is going to earn a lot of revenue. Madam Speaker, even as we process this bill, this House has another bill for startups, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, the bills for startup and the Konza technopolis. The Konza technopolis bill, Madam Speaker, should actually come before we finalize on the startup bill, because this is going to be the enabler of young people in the innovation sector, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, and that is why earlier in this House today, Madam Speaker, I asked that as the Budget Committee looks at the ACPO, access to business by the preserved groups, Madam Speaker, there is need to review, because when it comes to the technology space, Madam Speaker, you don't need to have been 10 years in the industry to innovate or develop a software or a system that can address a certain problem that exists. We therefore want to support this bill because it is also going to be an enabler to our young people, to innovators in terms of technology, and those who want to trade on the digital platform by making sure that we have a regulated industry, we have an institution that can be accountable to Parliament and to the people of Kenya. The revenue that we have lost over time, Madam Speaker, even from the very popular platforms we use on social media, will now be within the purview of this government to earn that revenue, and we transfer that money for use in developing this nation. With those remarks, Madam Speaker, I wish to say I support this act and want to urge the members of National Assembly to avoid divisionary tactics and avoid being compromised by merchants who want to ensure that this country remains in disarray in terms of technology, and allow this bill to proceed so that the country, innovators, and people who want to use the digital space to do business can be enabled. With that, I support.
Thank you, Senator Madego. There are no more senators who wish to contribute to the bill, so I call upon the mover, Senator Gloria, to reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to move. Madam Speaker, since I tabled this bill in Parliament, it is true that I've received a lot of pushback from various industries. And we know that the data industry is a multi-billion industry with a lot of cartels and many people who do not want good for this country. Madam Speaker, there was even a point where the bill was actually being dropped, and I raised some concerns in terms of how the committee was dealing with the bill, and I'm excited that we are now on the second reading, because there has been a lot of, it's been a very long journey to get to this point. Madam Speaker, just as Senator Mandago has said, there are many people who have been making a lot of money out of the data that Kenyans generate. We have companies in the data industry that are actually making billions of profits and are not remitting any taxes to Kenya. We have set up the infrastructure as a government in the name of Konza. We have even put out incentives in terms of those who are willing to set up BPOs and manufacturing plants in this country. But our policy and our legal frameworks are actually against the Kenyans who are working here and in these industries. So this bill is not only going to be an eye-opener for most of the youth who are actually not making money out of this, but this bill is going to be, let me say, the gateway to finally be able to tax most of these companies. Of all the social media companies that we have operating, where Kenyans are producing the highest content, Kenyans are giving the numbers in terms of East Africa, in terms of Africa, all these social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, TikTok, even WhatsApp, which is even being used to mobilize, which is being used as a platform for businesses. Right now we have demonstrations. You will see that WhatsApp is being abused and used to push for certain illegalities. All these companies, none of them are able to remit taxes because they are not registered in Kenya. Recently I was in Kigali for a Women Deliver conference about women empowerment. And we were struggling around the logistics of transport, how to get from point A to point B. And I simply asked my fellow colleagues who are with me, why can't we just call for an Uber? And it was shocking to find out that Uber does not operate in Rwanda. Why? Because the Rwanda government has ensured that all the data that is being generated, even by the digital taxi apps, is stored locally. So if the Rwanda government can actually legislate and ensure and implement that their data is stored locally, to push the data center industry, to push security, because when our data is being stored out there, we don't even know who is trading. We know that there are third-party service providers who are actually trading on our data. Then it is possible for us as a country, as Kenya, to legislate and clean up this industry. This bill is just the first step of many steps that we need to take in order to regulate this industry. I have tabled another bill in the name of, dubbed the Data Protection Bill, where we are actually, I'm trying to push that we locally store our data. But in the absence of the Konza technopolis bill, then we are lost in general. Many bills are going to be tabled, many innovative bills are going to be brought here, but in the absence of the legal framework that we are trying to put, that is going to be scaled up to all the counties, then we are actually not able to legislate effectively. So, Madam Speaker, I think it is time that we say no to these cartels out there. It is time that as a government, we make the hard decisions. And the hard decision is we need to regulate this industry. We need a legal framework for Konza or any other technopolis that is going to be across the nation. And we need to look into the space of digital content creation, innovation. We need to look into the online space and regulate it. Madam Speaker, today as we are here in chambers, there are so many things that are happening online that are actually pushing for the instability of this country. We are talking about people who are creating fake accounts to incite the public and push them out to this, what they are calling the mandamanos. Madam Speaker, it is not only because we do not have legislation that can actually ensure that we have convictions of these criminals, because that is what they are. We have to start from a place of understanding that any industry that exists must be regulated. There has to be some form of oversight. Konza can no longer exist in oblivion. It can no longer operate moonlighting. We need accountability, we need oversight, we need legal frameworks, and this bill actually sets out to ensure that the same is achieved. Madam Speaker, I know that some of the feedback we are getting is how to push further that the county governments are more involved. That is feedback that I've taken from Senator Mungatana, from Senator Cherargei and Senator Mandago, that we look into the committee and how to assert the county level. That's something that we'll take in. In terms of the 10 years, the years that are needed in terms of being a chair or a board member or the CEO, it has actually been my concern. I raised it with the committee. Again, as I said, it's been very difficult, Madam Speaker, to even relay me as the sponsor. As the sponsor of this bill, I have repeatedly to the committee, and two stakeholders that are involved said that the 10 years minimum qualification is actually not what I fronted. There is also an issue of the qualifications of the CEO, that they must have a degree. Madam Speaker, we are moving to competence-based education. We are moving to ensure that our informal skilled workers are able to thrive and prosper and get to spaces where they can actually have impact. We have had the situation where we have changed our curriculum such that now it is not about churning out papers and degrees, but it is about the skills and competencies. I have relayed the same information to the committee when we had a conversation with the committee, and I said, I feel that the number of years that is being stipulated as a minimum qualification to be the CEO or the chair, I said I felt that it is very, that it's keeping out our youth who could have the competencies. And I have also said that the minimum qualifications being a degree, what are we saying to our TVET youth? What are we telling them? That after they go to pursue their technical education and vocational education, that we are locking out the same from jobs. So I've said this to the committee, but as I said, this bill has been a very difficult bill to even table because the stakeholders involved, including the ICT committee, it's been very difficult. And I want to celebrate the fact that we've reached the second reading, but I don't want to lose sight of what the bill was intended to do. So that is something that I will pick up. Madam Speaker, I think with those few remarks, for me, my intention of this bill is to push the local job creation for our Kenyans, our youth. The intention is to also ensure that we have oversight for any monies that are being taken out of the exchequer by any authority or individual. And I think also for purposes of continuity and scaling up our innovation centers that we need this legal framework. And I hope that while we are pushing for this, that is actually going to be seen by those who are going to interact with the bill. It is an issue of safeguarding our spaces, ensuring that we don't export our jobs to servers abroad, and ensuring that investors who want to come and pump in money have the security of operating with a legal framework. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I beg that pursuant to Standing Order 66.3, I request that you put on hold the question to be deferred to a later date.
Thank you, Senator Gloria Uruoba. The putting of the question is deferred to next week, Tuesday at 2:30. We are going to I'm going to reorganize the order paper now, and I'll request the clerk to call out order number 17.
Order number 17, motion. Incorporation of intelligent water management systems in building plans for sustainable living.
There is resumption of debate on this motion. I do not see any senators interested in debating this motion. So we will defer this motion to next week, Tuesday at 2:30. For the mover to come and reply to this motion. Clerk, please call out the next order, order number 11.
Order number 11, the Agriculture and Food Authority Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 13 of 2023, second reading.
The mover of this motion, Senator James Murango, is equally not there. I direct that the same be deferred to next week, Tuesday at 2:30. Please call out, clerk, call out order number 12.
Order number 12, the Equalization Fund Administration Bill, Senate Bills number 14 of 2023, second reading.
The chairperson, Standing Committee on Finance and Budget. I do not see him in the house today, and I direct that the same be deferred to next week, Tuesday at 2:30. Order number 13.
The County Licensing Uniform Procedures. Order number 13, the County Licensing Uniform Procedures Bill, Senate Bills number 9 of 2022, second reading.
Senator Mariam Sheikh Omar. I do not see her in chambers today, and I direct that this be deferred to next week, Tuesday at 2:30. Order number 14.
Order number 14, the T Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 1 of 2023, second reading.
Senator Wakili Hilali Sigei, he was here earlier in the day. I do not see him in chambers now. I direct that the same be deferred to next week, Tuesday at 2:30. Order number 16.
Order number 16, the County Boundaries Bill, Senate Bills number 6 of 2023, second reading.
Senator Moses Kajwang, equally, he is not in chambers now. I direct that the same be listed next week on Tuesday at 2:30.
Order number 18, motion, report of the delegation, of the Senate delegation to the 67th session of the Commission on the Status of Women, CSW 67, held in New York from 6th to 17th March 2023.
Senator Fatuma Dulo is not in chambers right now. I direct that this motion be deferred to Tuesday next week at 2:30.